questions in the chat box, and we will try to answer them in the Q&A session in the end. So our first speaker for the day is Kriti ma'am. She's an HR professional, soft skills trainer, internationally certified career coach, and founder of the Skills Space. She has worked with companies like Tech Mahindra, SR Group, Magnum Group, having a total of 12 years of rich experience in HR and training and development. She's passionate about training and helping freshers and young professionals to accelerate their career growth by developing their skills. Welcome, ma'am, and thank you so much for joining us. I would now request ma'am to please enlighten our audience.
Hello, everyone. Ritu, can you hear me?
Yeah, ma'am, I can hear you.
All right, great. Thank you so much for having me here. And I welcome everyone, all the audience of Mentorment. And thank you for having me for this wonderful session of interview skills and strategies. Now, everybody, the purpose of our education lies in getting a job or doing a business, right? Most of us look for a job, and once you graduate, you're a fresh graduate, or even your experience, there's a lot of people who find it difficult to clear these interviews, right? Now, what is things that you can prepare, what you can prepare, in what manner you can prepare, which will help you to get this process clear, easier, and you would land with your dream job. I would request the host to please go with the slides. Okay. So now when you start preparing for the interview, there are 5 steps that you need to take care. As soon as you know that you're ready to go for a job, and you will be applying for a lot of jobs out there. So what you're supposed to do, mark these 5 steps and start preparing this way. Number 1 is self-evaluation. As soon as you know that you want to go out for a job, start evaluating your own self. Now in this step, what you're supposed to do is just have a recall or a flashback of what you have done till date. The courses that you have studied, the subjects that you have studied, the webinars, seminars, workshops, expert lectures that you have attended, a lot of activities you might have participated in school and colleges. Just recall all those. This will help you understand what you're good at, what your skills are, what your strengths and weaknesses are, what are the areas that you can improve on, right? While you do this flashback, this will actually help you to understand yourself better, that are you even ready for the job or not? While doing all this process, you would understand that what are the good areas that you have, which you can be confident about, and what are the areas where you can improve on, right? This self-evaluation actually helps you in your interview preparation. So once you have done your self-evaluation, you know what your good points, what your skills at, what are your selling points, right? The area of improvements. The second step comes with a very important document, which everybody or every interviewee have is resume. This is a 1-page or maximum 2-page document, which you're supposed to produce when you go for an interview. Now, while you do your self-evaluation, you recall what skills you have, the things that you have done till date will act as a base to build your resume. The information that you have gathered in your self-evaluation step, you can present this information in a very structured way in your resume, because that's your selling points, right? You just cannot put random things on your resume. So when you do a self-evaluation, ensure that you note it down in a copy, right? Make points that what you have done. Is this valid? Is it good point to show to my recruiter? Will this fetch me a job or not? When you get answer to all these questions, ensure that you structure all this information put in your resume. Along with your resume, the other important documents that you should make sure that you have in place are all your mark sheets, your ID cards, certificates, any testimonial that you have received, any letter of appreciation that you have received through your internships or any projects through your teachers. Ensure that you have all those in one place, so that when you go for an interview, in case the recruiter asks for, you have them handy and you can produce them immediately, right? The next step is, once you're done with your self-evaluation and all your documents and resume, you know you're going to apply for a job. So for each job that you apply, ensure before you go and appear for the interview, you know that company and the job profile well. You can do a little research about that company, or you can Google them. You can find their pages on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. Just get some information about their company, what they deal in, what their new products are going to be, what are the programs they're launching, or what they're basically doing, right? And also with the help of a JD. JD is a job description which you get for the job that you're applying for, which states all the roles and responsibility that potential candidate should be doing. So go through that job description, understand that what you are expected to do in that particular job. Now, while you do the research these two things about the company and about the job profile, this will help you to prepare your answers for the interview round, right? Because if any question which is relevant to the company, if they ask you, what do you know about a company? Or what do you know about the job that you're applying for? So because you have researched, you'll be more confident and you have that information to give it to them, right? So this becomes very important steps while you're preparing for the interview. Never just go blank and knowing nothing about that company or job. There are chances that you won't get selected. So ensure you follow this step. The next step comes in mock preparation. Now, you go and Google it, you would find n number of common questions that every interviewer asks. One being, tell me something about yourself, tell me about your academic performances, tell me about the projects you have done, internships that you have done. These are few common questions which you might get asked in your interview. So why don't you prepare for these questions beforehand, right? Prepare a structured answer for these questions. I, being an HR, have experienced a lot many times that a lot of students, freshers, or even experienced people are not able to answer the very simple question, tell me something about yourself. Because you think that, okay, I know everything about myself and I'll be able to deliver this answer well, but it doesn't happen that way. So ensure that you have a structured information to give in this question. You just cannot give random information in the question, tell me something about yourself. Just write it down, structure what is important, what you have to say and what you don't have to say, eliminate all those information from your answer, right? In a similar fashion, prepare for all the common questions that an interviewer may ask you. This and keep practicing that for a day or two. This will give you more confidence, give you more fluency, and there are chances that you would do less mistakes. Last step here in the preparation of interview is prepare for offline, online, and phone interviews. Now, because as everybody is experiencing this pandemic, we're working from home, we're connecting virtually right now even. So there are chances that you may have any of these three mode of interview. If things are good, you may be called for an offline interview in the office. So prepare accordingly for that. Just check the place where you're supposed to do the venue. Track the time by what you'll be taking to travel to that place. Ensure that you start early, you dress well up, you dress appropriately, formally, in a decent dress, right? Reach there before time. Take all your documents along with you. Make a checklist that what you're supposed to do while you're going for that interview, for an offline interview, right? When you're connecting online for an interview, ensure that you have a well-lit room, the lighting is proper, you have a proper setup of mobile phone or a laptop with better sound and quality. There's no disturbance in the background. Inform your family members that you're going to appear for an online interview, right? So prepare accordingly that, okay, you would have an online interview, you would know that this is the time that you'll be appearing for the online interview. So prepare for that. Now the third is phone interview. Usually the preliminary rounds or the last round happens on telephone. So when, obviously when you are applying for a job, you're expecting a call from them. So ensure when you get a call from them, you go to a place where you're able to talk properly. There's a place which is quiet. There's no disturbance in the background. There's no noise in the background, so that you can talk properly. You can communicate well. Otherwise, there would be a lot of disturbance and you won't be able to hear them properly. And that would create a negative and a bad impression. So ensure you prepare beforehand for all the three types of interviews. All right. So I hope you remember these 5 steps while you're preparing for interviews. Number 1, do the self-evaluation. This will help you in step 2, which is building your resume and other documents. Then knowing about which company you're applying for and the kind of job that you're applying for. Prepare the common questions, prepare a structured answer for them and prepare them so that this will help you bring more fluency and confidence in you. And last, prepare for 3 modes, offline, online, and telephonic interview. Next slide, please. Now, Before the interview, you have done certain preparation. There are few things you need to keep in mind while you are giving an interview and also when you are done with the interview. Just preparing before the interview is not enough. You need to be very mindful when you are actually there for the interview, right? So what are the things that you need to keep in mind while you're giving that interview? So number one is always remember first impression always counts. So ensure that you create a very good first impression. Now, when you're appearing online, obviously this is a small window that you'll be able to see that candidate for the interview, right? Ensure you have proper light, you're dressed well, you look smart, you look good, keep a smile on your face. Similarly, when you go for an offline interview, ensure that you dress well formally, you walk properly, open the door, ask for permission, and greet them, right? Whatever first thing that you do creates an impression about. So ensure whatever you're doing creates a good impression and doesn't gives a negative vibe or an impression to the recruiter. Right? Now, when your interview starts, ensure that you are very clear in your approach and very polite. You never know when your words go very blunt, you sound rude. You may think that no, I have given a good answer, but maybe the choice of word that you have taken makes you sound blunt, right? So that's the reason when you prepare for the interview, when the mock preparation happens, when you rehearse for those answers, ensure that you choose the right word, which are very clear, which are very polite. All right. Next thing is be very mindful of your body language, how you're sitting, you're standing up. Are you fidgeting? Are you playing with something? Are you annoyed? Are you looking up or down or sideways or whatever? Just look into the eyes. And when you're preparing for the online interview, look into the camera, right? So that shows more confidence, more engaging, and you build a connection with the recruiter. When we communicate with people, our words have lesser weightage than the body language. Non-verbal communication that we do has a greater impact on people. So ensure that whatever non-verbal messages that you're giving, be it through your body language, through your gestures, posture, are all positive. This can only be done when you're prepared for it. Next is know your resume. In your preparation, you have prepared a resume. That's a document which every interviewer prepares, right? Now, a lot of people just write a random things on your resume and they themselves do not know how to defend those things. Like suppose, for example, you write, my hobbies are reading books. So interviewer may ask you, what is the last book that you have read? And you have no answer to that. So don't do such stuff. Obviously, understand that recruiters are more smarter than you. They're experienced. Okay. So do not just write things which you do not know. If you have written, ensure that if you're being asked about that, you are ready to answer. Similarly, with the project thing that you write, your education, anything that you write is relevant, you know it, and you're able to answer anything asked about it. Next is listen to the questions before answering. Don't be in a hurry. Don't be very in rush or quick. You don't let the recruiter complete the question. You assume and then you start giving the answer. Don't do such things. Listen to them carefully. You can take a second's pause, understand, and then reply, which is a better way rather than just abruptly cutting them and just replying to what you think. Right. So don't do this. Communication, there's a one rule that you also need to listen to people. So ensure that you listen to the recruiter very well and then give your answers, right? Last is ask thoughtful questions and keep things at professional level. Now, during or towards the end of the interview, there are chances that recruiter may ask you that, do you have any question for us? So here you have a very good opportunity to show your intellect, to show how smart you are, how sensible you are. So always ask thoughtful questions, like questions about your growth, maybe your job role, maybe the location that you'll be working in, right? And such questions would tell them that you are more interested in the job and the role that you'll be playing, right? So always ask very thoughtful questions, which would create a better impression. And keep things at professional level, a very important tip. A lot of the time it happens that recruiter becomes very friendly with you just to probe things and get the real side of you. You don't get into that flow and start giving out information which is not necessary. Don't do that. Always talk in a professional manner, only give relevant information and do not get too personal while you are giving that interview. Once you're done with the interview, what things you need to keep in mind? Number one is always thank when you're doing an offline interview. When you're giving an offline interview, thank the recruiter there itself, or when you're giving an online interview, thank them. You can also write an email to them. Give me a minute. My apologies for this. So when you're done with the interview, you may write a thank you email to the recruiter for giving you an opportunity for this interview. Or you may just drop a letter. Letters are usually not very common these days. We use emails. So you can write a thank you email to them. Now, in your interview, there are chances that the recruiter may ask you for references. So when you give references, ensure you inform the reference or the people whom you've given as a reference that, okay, you might get a call for my reference, right? Otherwise, they would randomly get a call from the company and they would not know they need to recommend you, right? So ensure that you inform your references that you have given an interview in XYZ company and they might call you for your reference check. Last, if you do not get any call or reply from the recruiters after 48 hours, you can contact them. You can wait for 48 hours to 72 hours and you can contact them to check for your selection status. All right. Next slide, please. Now, once you're done with all the interviews, there are a few mistakes. I've listed down 4 or 5 mistakes, which a lot of people do, which makes your interview in a negative light, and there are chances that you may get rejected. Number one is talking too much. Like earlier I said, don't get too personal. Keep it to a professional level. Do not give unnecessary, irrelevant information, and which can cause trouble, right? Never badmouth about anybody in the interview, be it your college, university, be it your previous employer, anybody, any sort of badmouthing is never considered good. So whatever bad experiences you had in your past, do not disclose them while you give an interview. This will never put you in good light, okay? Reciting script. A lot of times I've said that rehearse your interview, practice your answers. That does not mean that you recite those answers, right? Make it little natural as if you're talking. Do not just recite the script in your interview. Okay, that sounds very bad, and that seems that you're not prepared at all. So practice in a way that it sounds more natural. Use your expressions, your hand movements, your facial expression to make it look more natural. Take the right pauses, and this will, you'll be good to go. Next is fake information. Do not put any irrelevant information, fake information, or wrong information in your resume, and also do not give any fake information while you are giving an interview. You might get caught and you might get blacklisted, right? So this is a big no. No data fudging, no wrong information on your resume and while giving answers. This will never fetch you a job. Even by mistake you get a job, maybe in reference check you might get caught, and that would put you on the blacklist. So don't do that ever. Asking wrong questions. Like I said, towards the end of the interview, the interviewer may ask you that, do you have any question for us? Here, a lot of you create a negative impression by asking wrong questions like, sir, what would be my salary? Sir, when can I join? Don't ask such questions. Rather, ask thoughtful questions about your job role, about the responsibility, about the kind of work, probably the kind of growth you may expect, the company culture, anything about company's future project. You may ask such questions, right? So don't do such common mistakes which can ruin the entire good answers that you have given in your interview. Next slide, please. Now, like I said, when you talk, when you communicate, the non-verbal part plays a very important role. I said first impression counts, right? So ensure that you dress properly. Why proper dressing, or what is the power of dressing? There's a quote which I've written here, which I like the most, is by an American costume designer, who says, "You can have anything you want in life if you dress for it." When you dress for it, because that actually means that you're prepared for it, right? When you're prepared for it, there are high chances that you would achieve those things. Be it anything, be it your interview, any goal that you have for your life, any target that you set for your own self. If you're dressed for it, that means if you're prepared for it, you would automatically get it. So ensure, well, this power dressing reflects your personality. That tells them how sensible you are, how critically or important this interview is for you. Everybody knows how we're supposed to dress. Dress formally, wear subtle colors, formal dress. Anything which looks decent, do not wear shiny, gaudy clothes, a lot of jewelry, fancy hairstyles. Don't do all that stuff. These are for parties, celebrations, and not for interview. So ensure that you wear decent, formal attire while you go for an interview. Create that first very good impression, which is an everlasting impression as well. Make it heard without words, right? So when you're dressed well, it speaks a lot about who you are, how sensible you are, what kind of personality you have. It talks a lot about you. So ensure, without even before you begin an interview, your dress up, your attire gives them a sense that yes, you are the right person. So ensure that you dress well. And I'm sure, well, by following all those tips, you will be able to crack your interview very well.